Hello everyone, this is Gary from Fantastic Fundas, and in this lecture today we are going to talk about Cripps Mission in India. Cripps Mission. Now, like always in this lecture too, I will like to begin with the background to the Cripps Mission. We all know this thing that we studied the elections over here, right? And then we also studied about the the elections were won, and then we studied about Bose versus Gandhi debate, and then we studied about this national movement during the World War II, and then we also discussed what to do next, like in the national movement, because the war was thrusted on us, so to CDM or not. And we discussed the opposing views of Gandhi and Nehru and Bose and Congress and the extremist, everyone, and the leftist and the rightist. We discussed the views of all those people. We touched the Pakistan resolution also, or Lahore resolution. And then, to seek our support, Britishers brought this August offer in 1940, and it was a derogatory to Indians because the way offer was being offered to Indians and the way war was thrusted on us. And so Gandhi started with this individual satyagraha, which had a lot of people, starting from Vinoba Bhave, followed by Jawaharlal Nehru, and then third person was Brahmdad. So that is how the things are going on. Britishers are adamant on their position that they are seeking our help also, but they are not ready to give us anything in return as we were seeking. Now, after individual satyagraha, a very important event happens, and this event is called Cripps Mission. Cripps Mission is a negotiation between Indians and the Britishers, and on the behalf of the Britishers, Sir Stafford Cripps came to India, and that is why this is called Cripps Mission. But the question is that why are Britishers sending this guy Cripps to India? The answer lies that here in between something has happened over here that we need to know. Something over here, this in between link. So what is this link? This is what my topic initially will be, and then in the rest of the lecture we will be talking about what Cripps did and how it failed. Of course it failed. During this time, the events that led to Britishers sending the Cripps Mission to India were primarily influenced by the international events. So what are these international events? I will be discussing these events now. Let's see what these international events were at that time. The first event in this regard that I would like to discuss to you is the German occupation of so many countries around it. Germany occupied Poland over here. This you can see Poland over here, and then it occupied Belgium. This is Belgium, number 19 over here. And then occupied Holland. This is Holland, and Norway, and also France. So you see Germany has occupied almost whole of the region around it, and in fact much of the Eastern Europe was occupied by Germany, and parts of Russia was also attacked under Operation Barbarossa. Once it got hold of all these areas, it also attacked Russia in 1941. That's when it happened. So let's put it here. Number one, the one important event that happened here, number one is German attacks. So this is number one, German attack. You have to now think. You see, history is not just a compilation of facts. Just think over it. If Germany attacks so much of the area, now let's highlight this one. Okay, this is, and then this and this, and Austria and Russia is attacked. You see, Germany has got so much of the area over here. What consequences would it have? Who would get scared because of this? Who would feel that they are at risk? Now think over, if Pakistan occupies the nearby areas, would India feel threatened? Of course it will, and it will need to do something about it. And the next thing that I would like to talk over here is this. This is the picture of Japanese attack on US Pearl Harbor. So we can say that this Japanese attack was another concern which got all the world powers to think that something wrong is happening. Now, when all this is happening, who will feel threatened? Who has got bigger stakes, and who is that country? Which are those countries? Those are that primarily among one or two others is United Kingdom, and that is why these two events are of great importance to us. Number one is the German attack, and number two is the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And not just this, Japanese also occupied number of other places at the same time. For example, you can see over here that they have occupied, they actually attacked over here, and this place called Philippines, and this area of then you can see the Indochina, the Malaya, and the parts of Indonesia and Burma. So Japan has attacked all these places, and now you can see it's literally over here. It's at the verge of entering India. Right, you can see this, like Japanese came, they followed this path, and now they are about to attack India. And what will happen when Japanese attack India? The British have the risk of losing their most prized possession, most prized colony, and that is India. So they would do anything to save it. Now, why involve Indians in saving it? Can't British do all this on their own? The reason is quite simple. British would need resources. They would need men, material for fighting the Japanese, and thus they want to make sure that Indians do enter the war at this time. And because Indians will properly enter the war only when Congress supports it. So to get these resources, they will need Congress over here. And to make sure that Congress agrees to this, they come up with the idea of what is called as Cripps Mission. And the British were most worried when the Japanese reached here, Burma, the capital of which at that time was Rangoon. Now, when they reach there, the telephones of worry must be ringing in England because they wanted to cooperate with India. And you can listen to this to remember this particular point. Now, at this time, it's not just Britishers who are worried, and because after all, India is getting attacked, and so Indians are also worried. And Gandhi, in his own typical style, he calls for the boycott of the Japanese goods. And here, to help you memorize it, I'll just show you a stamp by Mahatma Gandhi on Mahatma Gandhi, which was of course brought much later on. Videshi mal bahishkar karo, boycott foreign goods. Now, this, I'm not sure if it relates to Japanese products, but in any case, it does relate to the foreign goods. So you can memorize this way. And Congress Working Committee came at this time, and it overrode the objections of Nehru and Gandhi. So Congress Working Committee passed a resolution. Number one is Gandhi's worried. Number two, Congress Working Committee, it overrides Nehru and Gandhi, and it brings a resolution which says to cooperate in the defense of India if British agree to give full independence after the war. So they are again ready to negotiate with the Britishers, number one. And number two, some substantive power immediately, some substantive power immediately. So these are the two things Congress Working Committee asked for. Now, Gandhi didn't like this idea, and Gandhi said, in any case, from here onwards, Nehru is my successor. So there can be a question in your exam that when was it that Nehru was chosen as the successor of Mahatma Gandhi? It was at this time. Nevertheless, now let's see what's happening ahead. At the international level, who all are worried? So the most worried people, you can see their pictures here. Number one, as you can see, this is Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek of China, number one. Number 2 is Roosevelt of United States of America, and you of course know the number 3, that's Churchill, Winston Churchill, who was also the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And then numerous other leaders of Britain were it at this time. Now, when all this was happening over here, all these people that I just showed you, these people, they were seeking active participations of Indians in the war. And for this purpose, they were pressurizing United Kingdom to do something about it. And for this purpose, United Kingdom did send to India what is Sir Stafford Cripps for the purpose of negotiating Indian participation. Sir Stafford Cripps.
Now you can see this small clip regarding the arrival of Sir Stafford Cripps in India. You can see, observe him coming to India. Okay, this will give you some idea of what really happened, because this is the real footage of the incident from the history.
Civil disobedience prisoners were set free in December 1941. The nearness of war became a challenge to Gandhi and a test of faith. He resumed the weeklies to disseminate his view that all war is immoral. Just then, Sir Stafford Cripps came to India with the proposals of the British War Cabinet on self-government for discussion with representative Indians. On March 27, Gandhi arrived in New Delhi as Cripps was anxious to meet him. Strongly disapproving the indefinite and innumerable partitions involved in the proposals, Gandhi asked, "Why did you come if this is what you have to offer?" Characterizing the offer as a post-dated check, Gandhi soon left for Sevagram. The proposals were rejected by every single party and group in India. The Cripps Mission failed. The prospect of freedom receded into some dim and distant future. Inaction at the critical stage became intolerable for Gandhi, who was convinced that India's real safety lay in orderly and timely British withdrawal. Expressing the prevailing mood of the people, Gandhi urged passionately, "Leave India to God, and if that be too much, leave her to anarchy."
Now, it was in March of 1942 that Sir Stafford Cripps came to India, and Stafford Cripps, he was a left-wing Labourite, and he had been a supporter of Indian national movement. And let's see what he got with him when he came. So we are now discussing what Cripps' plan was, what he brought with him when he came to India. Number one thing that he brought with him, it was the same old thing. It was dominion status. But for the first time, officially, Britishers offered something on this line, was this Cripps Mission only. Yes, it was earlier mentioned on the August offer also, but the offer was made to Indians in this plan over here. That's number one. Number two was that we will give you, you can have a constitution and making body after the war was over. So he brought this also, but this was again same as August offer had, with the only difference that this time it was more detailed. Please do listen to this carefully, because there can be a question to differentiate between August offer and the Cripps Mission. And then the details were like, members would be elected by the provincial assemblies. So that's one. And number two was that in the case of princely states, the members would be nominated. So these details were there at this time. Number three, that idea that Cripps brought him with him was something highly disputable. Why I say so? Because it's the his idea was that any province which was not prepared to join to or accept the Indian constitution, they could come up with their own new separate constitution. So that was the idea, and they would have to sign the separate agreement with the Britain and regarding its future status. In other words, simply put, it was just an idea for having Pakistan. Actually, you can say it was an idea for the balkanization of the whole of India, because then India might have been divided into hundreds of states. How many princes would have agreed to this? I accepted the Indian constitution. They would have gone with their own constitution. And the fourth thing that Cripps brought with him, it was that for the time being, defense would be under the control of the sole control of the Britishers. And the last thing was that the powers of the Governor General will remain intact. So this was the basic plan of Cripps mission. Please do remember this plan. This can be asked in the paper. These are the 5 main things that Cripps brought. So now the question arises that what is the difference between August offer and the Cripps mission? Let's explore this Cripps mission, the difference between these two. First of all, over here, regarding the constitution was the first point, the difference, because here the constitution plan was quite concrete, number one. Number two, Indians could come up with their own constitution. They could make their constitution for the first time. They are agreeing. Number three is that separate constitution was an opportunity created here, which was not there in August offer. Number four is that you can withdraw from the Commonwealth. This was not there in the August offer, but this was offered in the Cripps mission. And then number five is that you could have more share in the administration even during the interim period. So this was also not there in the August offer. Do remember these 5 differences, and these will get you marks. This can be a question in your preliminary exam also in the shape of multiple choice questions. Let's see what are the objections raised to this Cripps offer, because you see no one is going to like it. So different people will have different objections. Let's see what Congress had to object, and that's the first objection of the Congress was quite easy. You can just pause the video here and imagine what objections could have Congress raised, and I'll just write them. When you come back, you can listen to this. So number one they raised is regarding the dominion status. They said we want complete independence. What are you talking? That was long time back, 20, 10 years, 15 years back that we were seeking dominion status, not now. Representation of the princely states in the Constituent Assembly should be by the people and not by the nominee of the rulers. So this was another objection of the Congress to the system of the Cripps mission. And this Congress said that your process of Cripps mission is merely a process of the partition of India, and we cannot accept that. Now, whenever the question is asked that was Congress responsible for the partition of India, now this is one argument which opposes that question, because here we are seeing the Congress is opposing the partition of India right from the earlier times also, but here we have the proof of 1940, 41, 42 when this is happening. And then number four is that they said there is no immediate transfer of power. So we want immediate transfer of power. We want substantial power now. Yes, what you're offering is was better than August offer, but it's not good enough. And then they said, how can you keep the whole sole defense responsibility, power, authority with yourself? Now let's see what objections other raised in this. The objection by the Gandhi was that, okay, thus we have done as Congress. Gandhi's objection was that how can you divide the India? I want undivided India. So undivided India was his main issue. Number 3, after Gandhi, we can talk about Muslim League. Now, Muslim League was somewhat happy about this, but then they also raised the objection that we there is inadequate representation of the Muslims in the assembly, and that is not acceptable to us. So that was their objection. And then Hindu Mahasabha also objected to this, and they said that they rejected, because Hindu Mahasabha said that we are rejecting this because Pakistan virus is still alive. Actually, this was the term used by them. And then Dalits also objected to this. Dalits said that there is nothing in them for the Dalits, for their upliftment, so we also reject. They said there is nothing for them. So you see the process. We see that everyone is having objection with this, and Cripps thus is bound to fail. So let's see what are the reasons for the failure of the Cripps. The biggest reason of the failure of the Cripps is his incapacity to bargain and negotiate. And why it was so? Because Cripps was somewhere sympathizer for Indian movement, and in fact it is a known fact that Churchill, who was the Britisher Prime Minister, and Amory, who was the Secretary of the State, and Linlithgow, who was the Viceroy at this time, Linlithgow, and Wavell, who was the Commander-in-Chief, they didn't want, all these people did not want Cripps to succeed, and in fact all of these people got together in the backstage and even sabotaged the efforts to accommodate the Indian opinion. So this is like one big reason for the failure of the Cripps in India. And number two are the objections that we have already done. The Congress objection, the Muslim objection, the backward classes objection, everyone is objecting because it was a blueprint for partition, so you have to understand that. Number three is that the Cripps mission, it came over here. It wasn't the result of the direct wishes of the Britishers. It came under the international pressure. If you remember the picture that I showed you in this in lecture, that how he was under pressure from United States and China to pressurize India for the war. And then number four reason over here, it is regarding that nominations of member, all these objections, but this becomes an important reason. Otherwise, the nominated members from the princely states became a major issue between the people here. Always elaborate the reasons for objections over here. Like you can talk about the Governor General was there, the defense parts were still with them, and you can talk about that that how there was no immediate transfer of power. So all these three reasons became the prominent ones for the failure of the Cripps mission. In the objection phase, I actually this objection phase over here, I can add few more things if you want, right? I'll just add them here. Number one is that, like, if you talk about objections from the Congress, the objections were raised by Nehru and the Maulana Azad. These were the two main negotiators, and the main objection came from them. And then Muslim League also had objections. For example, they didn't want a union, they didn't like the constitution making process. So union and constitution making process. And then they said we want openly, they wanted Pakistan of India to be created. So ultimately what I mean to say that here in this Cripps mission, what had really happened, it was what has been called by the historians as take it or leave it attitude. Take it or leave it attitude was there, because of which it failed. And you see, there were so many other confusions regarding this Cripps formula over here. For example, the process of accession was not defined. How can there be no clarity of the process? Still an agreement, right? And this was again, communities would be divided, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, all would be divided, right? And this way all these talks ultimately broke down. And lastly, we'll end this discussion on Cripps with Gandhi's remark. Gandhi called Cripps mission nothing but a post-dated check. So the Gandhi called it. In fact, there has been a question that which rejection of which agreement or which proposal by the Britishers was turned by Gandhi as a post-dated check. So you should be able to answer this question now. In this picture, you can see Gandhi standing with the Cripps. Now, the failure of Cripps mission, what happened with that? The failure of Cripps mission embittered the people of India, and embittered they were now going to resent against the British Empire, and this resentment came out in the shape of Quit India movement, and that will be the topic for the next lecture. Now, this was the short-term impact of the Cripps India mission. The long-term impact was visible only after the war was over, and that was when troops were mobilized and they were sent back home. Actually, Churchill also realized by this time that the promise that Cripps had made of freedom to India could not be retracted back from. The people of India were now growing more confident that the freedom is approaching soon, and it does eventually happen. Now, that was the long term impact, and the short term impact was the Quit India movement, which we will be discussing in the next lecture. My job ends here and yours start. You have to do two things. One is to memorize this lecture and make notes of this lecture for yourself, of course. And number two is that you have to share this lecture with others. That is the only fees that I ask for. And second thing is, if you like the video, please do click on the like button, and for getting all these videos in your email box, you will need to subscribe to us. That you can do by clicking here on this button. That is all, and thank you so much for watching this video.